I joined the furry fandom back in 2012 when I set up an account on Fur Affinity.
I've been a furry since 2015, around about just after my 15th birthday.
So I've been a furry for about 2 years, but before that I just sort of had an interest in it.
So I'm a furry because I love the art. Like, when I first joined the fandom, it was purely based on the fact that I saw some art of anthropomorphic animals online, liked it, followed it back to its source, learned about the fandom and was like, you know, I do actually really enjoy this topic and talking about it with other people, so yeah, why not?
I'm a furry because I found artwork and I quite liked it, and then found a community of people.
I'm a furry because I saw the fandom and stuff like that, and I thought it was like really creative and really interesting, and I'm a creative person.
The best thing about being a furry for me would be the fact that I get to interact with people who are like me.
Best thing about being a furry for me is just a lot of the people I've met. Met a lot of really nice and welcoming people.
For me, one of the best things about being a furry is that like you make friends that you never would have if you hadn't been in like the fandom and that, and like I've got a best friend in Ireland that I'm going to visit next year.
I would say the furry fandom is a very diverse group. There are a lot of different kinds of people in it, wide diverse group of people from ages, cultures, and the group tends to be very welcoming towards anyone and everyone.
In the furry community, I think from my experience, it seems to have been predominantly male, but there is a huge variety of people.
There's all these different types of people who are in the fandom for all these different reasons. It's like not just like males and females, it's like everything in between. Like I said, it like attracts loads of diverse people where they get to be themselves, where they're not, like they might not be accepted in general society. A lot of the people I know, like the majority of people that I know that are furries are like LGBT. A lot of people have like mental health issues or like autism spectrum who are brought to the fandom because they don't get accepted anywhere else.
The sex craze thing is something that we do try and like distance ourselves from, because at the end of the day, that's not what most of us are in the fandom for.
The idea that there's a lot of very overtly sexual and sort of degenerate furries comes from the fact that there are some who are very much like that and are very vocal about it, and that tends to have painted a picture for all furries.
In terms of like sexual stuff, it's like, yeah, that part of the furry community exists. They're quite open about it, and I think that's what people tend to see more because it's more out there, so it's more broadcast. But there's people in the fandom who are absolutely not sexual at all. Either way, like me personally, I don't care. People can like what they want, but I think when something's more outrageous, people hear about it more. In the past, I have seen people act like that, but that's because it does, like I said, it gets talked about more. Most of the time, I either don't react or I react in a way that like isn't going to incite anything else.
These people that I can think of, I have very openly shown my disdain for their actions and how it brings down the rest of us. And whenever somebody has asked me about them, I've made it very clear that I do not condone their actions and that that does not represent the rest of us. I've found that whenever you meet a new furry, they tend to be very much interested in talking to you. Generally, most people would just go around talking about anthropomorphic animals, drawing anthropomorphic animals, or dressing up as them, and just generally having fun with each other. I've been to a few conventions. Those have been good times. At the conventions, people gather together and engage in various different things, from playing games in suit, marching around like the convention center in suit, having a good time, spending time with other like-minded people.
So like everyone shares this interest. Like not every furry has to have a fursuit. People are interested in the art, or they might just be an artist, and everyone likes to talk about it, just sit, meet up, and have fun, maybe have a few drinks, some people at meets and stuff like that. I think it's mostly just about fun and having a good time. Welcome to my flat. This is where all the magic happens. This is Furry Central in Sunderland, basically. Around here is where all the magic actually happens. I have my sewing machine, which I don't use as often as I should, really. This is Diabolix. He needs remaking because he's very much broken. This is a work in progress of one of my friend's suits. He's called Happy. He's a Zangoose, like the Pokemon. He's a very good boy. This is Jack, who's my main character, and I made him, and he is my favourite boy ever. Art that I've gotten off people's over here, and then under here is just absolute mayhem. I've got fur here, I've got fur in here, I've got fur in here, and then where's my, there it is. And then I keep all of my letters with my branding on around here as well, so that's the joys of fursuit making. So this is my newest sketchbook, and I have a whole bunch of things. I have like my OCs, like my human, well, they're not human, they're like angels and demons and stuff, and I draw a lot of them. And this is like all traditional, but I'll bring it all to like digital, stuff like that. A lot of the stuff that I have in here is like trades, stuff where people swap art. So like I'll draw something for them, they'll draw something for me, so that we can both have some art. We can print it out, or I can put it on my wall over there with the other stuff, or I can just post it on my profile or something like that. There's fan art in here. There's YCHs in here, which is where you would create like a base basically, and then the person would pay you to fill it with their character. I have a full page where I practice with my pro markers on Pokemon. I should really put that on a fucking t-shirt, to be honest. That's Carry On, who's Karen crossed with, yeah, just an evolution. Brilliant.
I personally do not think that what furries do is weird. I think it is different. At the end of the day, everybody has unique interests and hobbies and will indulge in those things in whatever way is most comfortable for them.
Furries can be seen as weird because they sort of don't really fit societal norms that much. It's weird, but I wouldn't say particularly in a bad way.
People couldn't try their best to say like that we're not weird, but we're different. When you look at a group of people who are different, who aren't like classed as normal people in society, then that is what makes people weird, and it's more a case of like accepting that.
I think anyone that hates something without doing any research into the topic really has no business doing so. If you don't even try, then why? There is literally no valid reason to hate something if you haven't even tried to understand it.
Sort of people who hate furries and that without really researching are just kind of, I guess they just have a lot of hatred and just too blinded by hatred to actually do any research.
Part of us really, really wants to dislike them, but another part of us is just like, I can't blame them in one way, because there's no reason for people to go searching for stuff about furries if they don't like them. If people are freaked out and they've only heard about all like the bad stuff in the media, then I can totally understand why people would think it's just weird and like messed up.
At their core, furries are people who are enthusiastic about art, movies, films, etc. that depict anthropomorphic animals.
At the core, furries are just kind of broad, really. So many different particular groups that it's kind of hard to put one specific core on it.
At the core, everyone's different, but we're all there to have a good time and make friends and share a common interest. I'd say in terms of like all the negative conceptions and stuff like that the hate that I get, whatever, it's a case of, I would like to say that it doesn't affect us, but it does, because there's a lot of times where it's like I've drawn art and I'm like, should I upload it? Because if someone sees it, what they're going to say. If people who I know find out that I'm a furry, they're going to hate us. It makes us worry about the content that I put out, but at the same time I try and push that aside and just do what I want to do.
I still enjoy being in the fandom, and it hasn't really dampened my spirits or maybe enjoyed any less. So even if people continue to think bad things about us, I will still continue to try and convince them otherwise and enjoy the fandom to the best of my ability.